خۆشەویستان هەر کەس ڕەنگە شتێکی لە کاتی فێستیڤاڵێکی ئاوادا بەلاوە گرنگترین یا گرنگ بێ یەکێک لەو شتانەی کە مەبەستی سەرەکی لە مەبەستە سەرەکیەکانی ئەم فێستیڤاڵە بووە هێنانی ڕێزدار سۆران حەمەڕەش مێژووناس لێکۆڵەرەوە ئەکادیمیستی کوردە کە نزیکەی 30 ساڵی تەمەنی خۆی بۆ لێکۆڵینەوە و دەرخستنی ڕاستیەکان و ڕاستکردنەوەی مێژووی کورد تەرخان کردووە. هەروەک دەزانین تا ئێستا ئەوەی لەبارەی مێژووی کوردەوە گوتراوە ئەوە بووە بۆیان نووسیوینەوە. بێگانە دوژمنان چیان پێخۆش بووە بە دڵی خۆیان ئەوەیان بۆ نووسیوینەوە. بۆیە لە شوێنێکدا پێویستە ئەو مێژووە ڕاست بکرێتەوە. یەکێک لەو کەسانەی کە تەمەنی خۆی تەرخان کردووە بۆ ئەو کارە بەڕێز سۆران حەمەڕەشە و یەکێک لە ئەو بەرهەمە گرنگانە ئەو کتێبەیە کە ئەمڕۆ لێرە دانراوە و دەفرۆشرێ مێژووی بزر و نەگێڕدراوەی کورد کە بەڕاستی ئەوە پێمان دەڵێت ئەوەی تا ئێستا گوێمان لێبووە و خوێندومانەتەوە لەسەر مێژووی نەتەوەکەمان لەسەر مێژووی کورد زۆر پڕ بووە لە کەم و کوڕی بەلاڕێدا بردن و هەڵە و چاواشەکاری لە مێژووی نەتەوەکەماندا. هیوادارین ڕێزدار سۆران حەمەڕەش تەنیا نەمێنێتەوە لەم بوارەدا. کەسانی دیکە ئەکادیمیستی کورد لە داهاتوودا بەم ڕێچکەیەدا بڕۆن و مێژووی نەتەوەکەمان ڕاستکەنەوە وەکو واقعەیەک کە هەیە. من نامەوێت زیاتر لەسەر ئەو بڕۆم لەسەر ئەو باسە با خۆیان بفەرمون و باسەکەیان پێشکەشکن و ئەو وەختەی دەزانین کە بەڵگەکان چیمان پێ دەڵێن ئەو بە بەڵگەوە سەلماندوویەتی ئەوەی کە تا ئێستا بووە هەڵە بۆ دەرخواردی ئێمە دراوە.
Tänään paikalla on Soran Hamarash. Hän on kurdikirjailija, akateemikko, historioitsija ja kielitaiteilija Englannista. Ja hän on omistanut lähes 30 vuotta hänen elämästään kurdien ja kurdien historian tutkimiseen. Hän on julkaissut tänä vuonna englannin kielellä ja kurdin kielellä kirjan nimeltään Kurdien kadoksissa oleva ja kertomatta jäänyt historia. Tässä kirjassa hän haastaa tällä hetkellä saatavilla olevat historiakertomukset kurdikansasta ja kurdien historiasta. Tämä kirja vie lukijat kattavalle matkalle kirjoittamisen ja maatalouden alkujen läpi, jotka ovat olennaisia parhaisimpia sivilisaatioita ja kurdien historiaa. Ja tämä kirja on tänään onneksi saatavilla kirjamessuilla sekä englannin kielellä että kurdin kielellä. Suosittelemme kovasti hankkimaan näitä kirjoja, koska kirjat on lukemista varten ja meidän täytyy tukea näin arvokkaita teoksia ja näin arvokkaita historioitsijoita. Pyydämme nyt Soran Hamarashia tänne lavalle ja hänen puheenvuorossa on sekä kurdiksi että englanniksi. Ja haluaisin vielä sanoa, että olen erittäin iloinen, että täällä tänään on paikalla sellaista sukupolvea, joka on syntynyt täällä Suomessa tai jotka ovat muuttaneet Suomeen hyvin pienenä. Toivotan teidätkin tervetulleeksi tähän festivaaliin. بهم خوش بو بكرديش بيلن كا زوزر بيس هستكم بياني بكم كخوش حالم كا امرو ليرة جيلك ابينم ليرة آمادن كا يان لفنلند لدايك بون يان اويك لا تمنيكي اتشكارج كوليا هاتونة فنلند ليرة جيان يان دس بيكردوا زوزر خوش حالم كا او جيلة ليرة ابينم اما ماناي هوشياري وريايي او جيلي كردكا ليرة بيجيشتون ئێمە ئەرکی سەرشانی هەر هەمومانە بەڕاستی ئەبێ پشتیوانیان بکەین و ئەبێ بەرنامەی زیاتری ئالەم جۆرە دروست بکرێت چونکە ئەو جیلە داهاتووی ئەم نەتەوەیان ئەوانە نوێنەرانی کوردن لە ئەم وڵاتانە و لە هەموو دنیا من زۆر لە کاتان نابم دا لە کاک سۆرانی حەمەڕەشەکەم کە تەشریف بێنێنە ئێرە.
So we are all here to talk about the lost history of the Kurd. I will start by an introduction, and then why history of the Kurds matter. Some people say it doesn't matter. Who cares about history? So we discuss this issue as well. Later on, we look at modern view about the Kurd. I will bring some evidence how academia, how academic institutions around the world currently So how academic institutions currently see the Kurds. I will show you the evidence. And we look at the old view as well, how the ancient documents, how they saw the Kurdish people. So I'm going to look at the evidence of writing. Through evidence of writing, I will show you who the Kurds are. And later on, we would look at the agricultural evidence, just again to see who the Kurds are and where did they come from. Now, I believe what's currently called Kurdish history is not theirs. It's a history written by colonial power to serve political agendas. I don't believe in conspiracy theory. Anything I say based on evidence, because if we don't base our argument on evidence, it won't be academic argument. So we conclude the afternoon, and I will listen to your question. I try to speak for 45 minutes, and later on I'll take your questions. Introduction. From childhood, I'm a Kurd. At home, we were Kurdish. But outside home, I couldn't find myself. In the history book of Iraq, I was born in South Kurdistan. So in the history books, I was trying to find any mention of Kurds, but we didn't exist. So I lived in this parallel world. At home, my father told me, you are a Kurd and you have to remain a Kurd. But outside my home, the book told me different thing. We didn't exist. So we existed and we didn't exist. So that encouraged me to question who we are. Where did we come from? Why this contradiction exists? 4 years I focused my study on studying the history of the Kurd, understanding where did they come from. But one day, about 15 years ago, I was looking at a paper about Manian. Manian, they ruled East and South Kurdistan, mainly east of Kurdistan. These people, they were rulers about 3,000 years ago. So while I was reading the paper, suddenly I saw this name. A ruler of Manian 3,000 years ago was called Aza. 3,000 years ago. Aza in Kurdish language means brave. But I didn't jump to conclusion. I said maybe this is just coincidence. Maybe it's not a Kurdish name. But later on, I saw another name, Baghdadi. Baghdadi again was a name of a ruler. Baghdadi in Kurdish, Bagzada, which means born of the Lord. Bagzada, I think most of you heard of that name. So suddenly I said no. History on its own cannot answer our question, our aim of finding about the Kurd. We need language as well. So my journey, about 15 years ago, I started studying ancient languages. Sumerian, Hurrian, Hittite, Avestan, Pahlavi, Old Persian, Luwian, and some other languages. I suddenly found that with history on its own is not enough. So I started the journey of understanding the Kurd through language as well. So why history of the Kurds matters? I love water. Just 1 minute, sorry. So that question, some people say, who cares? Today is important. Who cares? But in reality, I think every history matters, because history of any people on planet Earth is part of the history of humanity. If we don't understand part of that history, that means there's a gap in our understanding. So if we don't understand history of any nation, any people, that means there's a gap in our understanding about history of humanity. But history of the Kurd matters more. Let me show you why it matters more. Look, this is a map of Kurdistan. I didn't draw it. This is, it was drawn by our organization about 70 years ago. So this is the map of Kurdistan. Here, this is Fertile Crescent. Have you heard of Fertile Crescent? Anyone heard Fertile Crescent? Okay. Fertile Crescent, we call it in Kurdish Kawani Bapit. Many human civilization started there. There are two milestones. Agricultural revolution started there, and animal domestication. You see, can you turn off your mobile, please? Today we talk about industrial revolution, but we never talk about agricultural revolution. In the matter of fact, agricultural revolution was more important than industrial revolution, because for the first time, humanity, before that, they were hunter-gatherer. They were hunting. They had to every day run after gathering food. But suddenly, when they started the agriculture, they had food surplus or extra food. So they had the pleasure of sitting down and enjoying the time. So that way, people, that is how the civilization and profession started. Because suddenly we had food surplus, so we can sit down and listen to music. We can listen to stories. We had time for that. So that's how civilizations started. So Kurdistan is in the heart of beginning of human civilization, which is agricultural revolution and animal domestication. Now, if we don't understand the Kurd who live on that land, that means we don't understand the beginning of civilization, because this is the land where the civilization started from. Now, maybe some of you Kurdish children from new generation in this country, you try to Google it. Who are the Kurds? Let me try to find out. This is a major organization called Britannica. Britannica has another name, British Encyclopedia. This organization is considered an academic organization, so anything they say, we consider it academic. Now, look at the view of this organization about the Kurds. Today, as we are speaking, look, we read it together. The traditional Kurdish way of life was nomadic, revolving around sheep and goat herding throughout the Mesopotamia plains and the highland of Turkey and Iran. So Kurds were nomads. The traditional way, we were nomad on the mountains on Turkey and Iran. Most Kurds, I highlighted those comments. Look, most Kurds practiced only marginal agriculture. So Kurds didn't know agriculture. They were just herders. The enforcement of national boundaries beginning after the World War I embedded the seasonal migration of the flocks, forcing the most of the Kurds to abandon their traditional way of village life and settle farming. So, thank God, when they drew this map, according to Britannica, Kurds started to settle and they started agriculture. Before that, they didn't know. They were nomad on these mountains. So this is academic view about the Kurd of today. This is the view of one of the biggest organizations in the world. Now, I will show you an example, old view about the Kurd. This man is very important. I love this man. His name is Ben Wahshiyah. He's not Kurdish. He is Chaldean. Chaldean, we call them New Babylonian as well. These people were, they were considered people of science by the Greek. And this particular man, he was linguist and agriculturalist. Around the world, he is known as one of the top agriculturalists in the history of humanity. Remember, he's Chaldean, he's not Kurdish. This is his view about the Kurds. This is 1,200 years ago. Look, the Chaldean or New Babylonian were the wisest men of their times, well acquainted with every science and art. The Kurds debated them and wanted to be their equal. So 1,200 years ago, Kurds wanted to debate the Chaldean and wanted to be their equals. Okay? The first superiority Kurds had over them was in agriculture and botany. So 1,200 years ago, Kurds were better than, according to a Chaldean man, better than Chaldean in agriculture. Okay? They claim to descend from Banu Shad. Kurd claimed to Banu Shad is one of the wise men of Mesopotamia. He is a well-known figure. And to have to got possession of Book of Adam. This is very interesting. The Kurds, they said they had Book of Adam of agriculture. Adam is not the Adam of biblical books of Islam and Christianity and Judaism. This is the original Sumerian Adam. You will see in the book the detail. I can't give you all that detail, but you can find out about that. So the Kurds, 1,200 years ago, had the books of Adam of agriculture. And the man said, Kurds are superior to them. I saw in Baghdad 30 books written in this alphabet. This is the Kurdish alphabet 1,200 years ago, okay? The man said, I saw 30 books written in Kurdish about what? About vine and palm tree, okay? And how to find water in a known area. So he found 30 books, but he had two books. Look, I translate them from Kurdish language into Arabic for the benefit of mankind. So our books were translated to Arabic 1,200 years ago for the benefit of mankind. As you saw, there's a major contradiction between these two views. Look, most could practice only marginal, so they didn't know agriculture. But here, 1,200 years ago, we were superior to everyone in agriculture. Look, the difference is huge. Here, Kurds were nomad, but here our books were translated to other languages. Any science, any field in the world, when there's a contradiction, when there's a big differences, that means we have a problem. We have a problem in this field. We misunderstood the Kurd because these two views tells you there's a major gap. So together we try to find which one is based on evidence. The view, modern view by Britannica or old view by Bin Wahshiyya. Now, this is Kurdistan. This is the map by myself, basically. I've chosen few areas of Kurdistan. An example, for example, Gre Mirazan. In Turkish, they changed the name to Göbekli Tepe, but I use the Kurdish name. This is the oldest temple on planet Earth. 12,000 years ago. There is nothing before that. So this is on Kurdish land. Okay? This is Bestansur. Bestansur is those who are from south. This is outside Slemani, 11,000 years old. Ganjdara near Kermashan, this is 10,000 years old. And this is in Rojava, 8,000 years old. So I've just chosen an example for you. So archaeology tells us that Kurdistan is the beginning of civilization started there. But are these people related to the Kurd? There's a project called Central Zagros Project. Currently, while we are speaking now, there's teams of Britain. I'm not sure about Finland. There's a team from Britain, France, Italy, Japan, and other countries. They try to understand the process of how human transformed from hunter-gatherers to agriculturalists, how they settle. So early village around the world, the oldest village is still found on the mountain Zagros, on Kurdish land. But are these people related to us? I look at these two evidence, agriculture and writing, to understand whether these people are ancient Kurds or they are not related to them. And just to prove, modern view about the Kurd is accurate or old view. Language. As I told you, these archaeological site of Kurdistan, they found a lot of evidence there. One of the things they found, we call it clay token. Let me explain clay token. When they had agriculture, a lot of wheat and food, humans started to have a lot of extra food. So they needed to exchange. For example, this village had a lot of oil. That village had a lot of wheat. So they exchanged it. So this was the business exchange. For example, this represented sheep. That represented oil. That represented another material. So these are the beginning of civilization. Humanity started exchanging. You can find that these are everywhere in Kurdistan. The side I talked to you about, you'll find that. Now, as you can see, these are the places where they found the places on the mountain of Kurdistan, mainly. So around 5,000 years ago, some people said, why we make these things? Let's just draw it. It's easier. Look, what they did, this symbol was what sheep, mar. So this symbol gradually changed to writing. Look, this is cattle. It was like that gradually to this. So everything became, currently we call it cuneiform or khatimehi. So this is what we see. This is Sumerian language, the first written language on planet Earth. This is how humanity transformed from this symbol to that. It took 5,000 years to move to that. But is this language? We know. Okay, we are sure that these are found in Kurdistan. And these are found in Mesopotamia. But are they? Which language? We don't know this language. So together, can you close the door, please? Okay, together we look at this language, this first written language in the history of mankind. Look, by the way, I don't translate any word from Sumerian. I'm not translator of the language. I'm linguist, but I don't translate. This is not my job. There are academic institutions around the world, they carried out the translation. So any word in my book you will find is not from me. It's from top academic books. For example, this is Pennsylvania University. This is Horan, one of the best dictionary of Sumerian language. This is dictionary of gods and goddesses. Basically, I am using, this is grammar of Sumerian. I use evidence. Anything you want to challenge, you have to face these top academic institutions I use. Now, let's look at some of the words. I chose just words related to human feeling and body. Look. Look, the two meaning in both Sumerian, two meaning hasn't changed after 5,000 years, okay? This is bur. Bur, this is the area, this area in Kurdish we call it bar, in Sumerian was bur. In English it's crotch. Do is exactly the same meaning to speak. The root of the word in Kurdish, do, in Sumerian is do, without any change after 5,000 years. Fart, sorry, those who understand, hasn't changed again after 5,000. This is how the language is. Kurdish language is like it's a miracle. How this language kept itself after so many different people arrived and we still kept our language. Look, iri, sometimes you hear in German, damari, mari, iri. Iri is Sumerian, iri. Exactly, hardly changed after 5,000 years. Go, growing, this area, in Kurdish they call it gal, and in Sumerian is gal. Galu, Gali in Sumerian after 5,000 years. Now, giri giriya. Look, two form. Giri giriya in Sumerian, giri giriya in Kurdish. The two form. And look, cry here and cry here. So that same word, we have two form on the same word with the Sumerian. This is like a miracle for the world. Now, this is in Kurdish called Gepara, nape in English. That's in Sumerian Gupar. gish, I don't have here, unfortunately, but some of you have gish. You understand, that's the word gishagi here. So it hasn't changed after 5,000 years. Skin, cash, as anyone speaks Russian? Slavic language? Anyone? By the way, you can see that word in kozha in Russian language. Yeah, kozha. So this is the Sumerian, this is Kurdish, and you can find it in Bulgarian, Polish, and Russian, and other languages. Mil, look, mil is mil, hardly change. Me, female, look, that's exact word. I haven't touched anything. This you can find that in the top dictionary around the world. Nu, to sleep, anwe, nu, exactly the same word. Scratch, look, two forms of the same word you can find it in both Sumerian and Kurdish after 5,000 years. Now, these are some of the gods and goddesses. Sumerian, look, Dainer, Didner, sender of justice, Adalat Ner, Adalat Dadwari Ner. That was how they created the word of God in Sumerian, the sender of justice. Exactly the same meaning after 5,000 years, sender of justice in Kurdish language. Now, fire in Kurdish is gir, in Sumerian was god of fire. Look, hasn't changed. Kurgal, Kur in Kurdish mean high mountain, in Sumerian mean mountain. So, high great mountain in Kurdish and in Sumerian great mountain. That was the name of a god. So most of the Sumerian god is still the same. Now, nana, when you say nana, that is the Sumerian word. Nin means female, place, great. That is another goddess, Sumerian goddess. The meaning hasn't changed in Kurdish language, again, after 5,000 years. Some of you may be old. Have you heard of Allah? Anyone heard of Allah? Yes or no? Yes, Allah? Okay. In Kurdish culture, when a woman give birth to a child, Kurds are superstitious. They say there's a demon might attack the woman. So they protect no one leave the new mother because they believe that demon attack thee. So this is same demon in Sumerian. Shara, Sumerian warrior god in Kurdish mean fight and war. Utu Hatau, sun god, as you can see, most of you speak Kurdish and you can see it hasn't changed. So I don't want to spend more time on that. Now, who's from East Kurdistan? Rojalat. Okay. In Rojalat we say Slamaka. This is Sumerian. This is the Sumerian Slamaka without, I haven't touched any word. Slamaka today in the village of East Kurdistan they say Slamaka. Now more words. This is Galwur, scratch growing. After 5,000 years, scratch growing hasn't changed. Gal Quranan. Look, I haven't touched any word. This is how the language is. And this is more complex sentence. Amamu ezan ninda'aka. Amam jajan nanaka. That's how this 5,000 our grandfathers said the language. Look, word by word, as you can see. So this is how this language preserves itself. Now, today in the village you can hear sometime, Aidau biada, Aidadu biada. Have you heard that? Have you heard that? Aidau biada? Okay. This is actually, if you translate that to, this is the Kurdish one. Aidau biada or Aidadu biada. In Sumerian, it's exactly, if you translate it, it becomes Iadidu biadid. Wu is exactly the same word, and that's how they wrote the word. Be, benan. This is exactly the same word. Okay? And you can see, this is history. This is a clear connection with the Kurdish language. Now, Kurdish is considered Indo-European language. Now, everyone in the world, everyone says Sumerian died 4,000 years ago. It's unrelated to any any language. I am the only one now coming and say to the world, no, Sumerian is not a dead language. Sumerian is connected to Indo-European language. Let me show you an example. Look, Iwutu in Sumerian means or sun, or heat, or light. 3 meanings. Look, Ayhatau in Kurdish, in English, ohit, same meaning, and in German, ohitze. Look, this could be just coincident. Let's see another example. Lu nudu, okay? In Kurdish, la nadwe. In Italian, lui non dice. This is French, il ne dit pas. Look, you can see every word. This is history. And even in Spanish, again. So I am challenging the world based on evidence. I tell them, no, Sumerian didn't die. We need to understand Kurdish to understand how language of civilization developed, how Western. So that's why the title of my book says, Rediscovering the Origin of Western Civilization and the Origin of Indo-European Languages. Because through Kurdish language, we can understand the beginning of civilization and how language evolved. Now, more example. This is Slam nin ibasigiriya. Look, Slam nin ibasigiriya in Kurdish. In Italian, saluto nonna, basta grido. Look, and in English, only this word has changed. Okay? As you can see, the meaning little bit different. But this is history. This is for those who mainly languages from Slavic, Russian and other language. Nazan or Nazu, look. This is Latin, Russian, Serbian. By the way, no one in the world done this research. This is new research. That's why I'm here. I will be in Germany next month. I will go on tour on 6 cities. There's a plan to go to Austria and America beginning of next year. So I want to challenge institution and go there to the university, tell them this is the real history based on evidence. Now, did the Kurd know that their language was Sumerian? Look, Kurds, as you remember, I showed you in the beginning, Bin Wahshiyah. The Kurd claim what? They had the 7 books of creation. They claim to have all the 7 of Antediluvian books inspired by heaven. So the Kurd believed that they had the 7 book of the Sumerian. So they said it 1200 years ago. So Kurd in the past, they knew their history. They knew who they came from. And they said they have the book of Adam, if you remember. Adam is Sumerian Adam. Before the mention of Adam in Bible and in Quran and in Torah, Adam was a Sumerian figure who he brought civilization. So Kurd believed that they have the book of Adam. So Kurd knew about that. Now, until now, I spoke about language. But I showed you that agriculture, the archaeology tells us that agriculture started in Kurdistan. Now, let's look at the evidence. Did we know that? Did we have agriculture? So, look, 2,000 years ago, a man called Strabo. Strabo was a historian, a Greek historian. He came to Jazira Botan from North Kurdistan. It was called, those days, it was called Gurdain, okay? And he called the Kurdish people Gordis. He said, Gordis, son of Triptolemus, is related to colonized Gurdain. So Kurdistan was colonized by Gordi, Kurd, son of Triptolemus. This is very interesting. In Greek mythology, Triptolemus is what? Is demigod, inventor of agriculture and civilization. So in Greek mythology, Kurds were responsible for invention of agriculture and civilization. So Greek recorded this, that the Kurds were the start and the beginning of the civilization. And this is more interesting. There's a team, about in 1997, they found wheat. Do you know wheat, Ghanem? In North Kurdistan. And they said, Karajada are very probably the site of domestication. So, archaeology supports Greek mythology. Greek said the Kurds were inventor. The father of the Kurd was inventor of agriculture and civilization. But archaeology as well proved the same thing. This team found that the wheat in this area is the first domesticated wheat. And this man called Al-Jaziri, by the way, I'm not saying he's Kurdish. Britannica, everyone said this man is Kurdish. Al-Jaziri lived where? In the area where the Greek man went. This man created one of the best robot and anything related to water engineering, because the expertise of water was among the Kurd. This is the work of this Kurdish man. He worked in Jazira Botan. He's called Al-Jaziri. By the way, do you know Leonardo da Vinci? You've heard. According to Britannica, Leonardo da Vinci learned from this man. When he designed his book, he learned from this book. Because before Leonardo da Vinci, this man was one of the top designers around the world. So this is evidence that 800 years ago, there was a Kurdish man who was a top engineer, water engineering around the world. Now, there's another man called Abu Hanifa. Abu Hanifa wrote one of the best books about agriculture called An-Nabat. So this book, during Islamic era, about 1200 years ago, that was one of the top books about agriculture. So, language and agriculture, as you can see, we have evidence that these two were prevalent among the Kurd. Now, you may ask me, why today you are coming here, you tell us different history? In the matter of fact, there is a man, he was from Babylon. 2,300 years ago, the history he wrote was different from the current history studied in university. This man said the origin of kingship of Babylon started by the meat. Okay? So no history book currently tell you that civilization or kingship started. But this man who was indigenous to the area, his view about history was different. So my history is related to the history of this man because we are indigenous and from the same area. Now, about a month ago, exactly 27 of last month, a team of, this is the top institution in Germany. They call Max Planck Institute of Evolutionary Anthropology. This is the top organization in Germany. Last month issued a new paper. It says original of Indo-European languages coming from here. Exactly Kurdistan. But they don't say Kurdistan because politically you can't say Kurdistan. It is exactly there. Before they were saying it's in around here, but now they moved exactly to Kurdistan. So everything I say today, I say it to you. Now institution, they knew it, but they studied without the Kurds. Because in their mind, Kurds are nomad. Kurds have no civilization. So we don't look at the Kurds scientifically. The current books written around institutions around the world is not scientific because its foundation is political. Currently is not, but 200 years ago when they started writing that history, it's political. Otherwise, anything I tell you that, by the way, I said the Indo-European language started from Kurdistan in 2013. I said the same thing 10 years before them in my previous book and this book. But they just found out about that. So, why history of the Kurd became like that? Again, Britannica. Today, if you look for, Salahuddin? Okay. If you read in Britannica, it says Sunni Muslim dynasty. So, they don't say Kurdish. Sunni Muslim of Kurdish descent. Now, look at the Turkish dynasty, how they describe it in Britannica. Zangid Turkish dynasty, look, Muslim Turkic dynasty. But for the Kurd, they call it Sunni Muslim. But for the Turk, see, Kurds are missing. So this is how they write history. This is how they exclude the Kurds from the history books. Now this book is in one of the museum in Turkey, okay? Anyone, some of you read Kurdish. Okay, I know that, thanks. Now look at the title, History of the Kurds. Talks about Salah ad-Din. So Salah ad-Din state was called Tarikh Dawlat al-Akrat, History of the State of the Kurds. So Salah ad-Din was defined as a Kurdish state 800 years ago, okay? But someone in Turkey, they added Wal Atrak and the Turk. So this is how they play with our history. Look, this is a manuscript in Turkey. Someone with, as you can see, played with the thing. This is the title of the state of Salah ad-Din. So every day, I come back to the beginning. If you remember, I showed you Britannica. So look, what you are studying and what our children study currently and what the top academic institutions like Cambridge, Harvard, and name it, they don't study Kurd scientifically and they don't look at them objectively. They stereotype the Kurd are nomad. Kurd has no civilization. So this is how they approach, this is how they look at us. So that's why this is what's written about us. And this is the other one, ancient view. So as you saw, the older view about the Kurd is based on evidence. The new view about the Kurd is political, is not based on evidence. Conclusion. So in the beginning, as I told you, in the last 200 years ago, Western scholars started to come to become more interact with the Middle East. So they started writing about the Kurds about 200 years ago. Those days, Europe, they were nationalists. They were trying to find a great past about themselves. So they invented Aryan theory. Aryan theory is not scientific. And in that theory, gradually, they came to the area, Britain and France, they divided these countries. When they divided this country, Kurds didn't exist on the map. Because we didn't exist on the map, academic institutions of Western power, they followed the same politic. Kurd doesn't exist in the book of history. We don't exist. And the reason is not because we don't exist, because it was in the interest of the political power for us to not exist. For that map to be legitimate, the map of division of Kurdistan. And I say in Kurdish quickly as well. دوسە ساڵەمەوە پێش ئەم هێزانە کە هاتنە ئەم ناوچەی ڕۆژهەڵاتی ناوەڕاست ئەمان بە دوای خۆیان ناگەڕان ئەیانویست ڕابردوویەکی گەورە و مەزن بۆ خۆیان دروستکەن کۆمەڵی تیۆری ئاری و ئەمانەیان داهێنا دوایی نزیکەی 3 ساڵەمەوە پێش هاتن ئەم نەخشەی ئەم ڕۆیان دروست کرد کە ئەم نەخشەی ڕۆژهەڵاتی ناوەڕاست لەم نەخشەیە کورد دەرکراوە کوردی تیانە لەبەرەوە هەچی دەستگا ئەکادیمیەکانی بەریتانیا و فەرەنسا و ئەم وڵاتانە لەسەر هەمان سیاسەت مادەم کورد لەم نەخشەیان نییە منیش وەکو ئەکادیمیەکی بەریتانی من خۆم ناڵم ئەو کەسێک کە لەوێ کارەکە لەسەر هەمان سیاسەت ئەمڕۆ بۆیە تۆ لە پەرتووکانی تۆ لە پەرتووکە تەنها شوانێکی بەڵام ئەمە بابەتێکی زانستی نییە ئەمە بابەتێکی سیاسیە کە تۆ لەو مێژووە لابرایی. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm happy to listen to your question, whether in Kurdish or English. سپاس بۆ گوێگرتنتان. هەچ پرسیاری هەر شتێکتان هەیە ئەتوانم وەڵامتان مامەوە.
Thank you. I read your book earlier this year, and I thought it was very important and interesting also. So I started to read more about the subject matter of Sumerian language, and it was very funny because very quickly I found out that there is a Finnish professor of Sumerian language called Simo Parkola, and he has a theory that the Finnish language and Sumerian language are related to each other, And it sounds very funny because we here in Finland, we are like far away from everything. And I know that we are not like the ancient civilization present here. But he bases, Simo Parpola, I think he bases his theory on this idea that the Sumerian language and the Finnish language, they have a similar construction, like an Uralic or Altai language construction. Like for example, we have in Finnish language, we have this crazy habit of having like one basic word, and then we start adding these small particles of word into the main word. Like for example, we have a word like talo, which means house, and then we start adding like talossa, talossani, taloissani, taloissanikin, taloissanikin ko, and yeah, like endlessly like this. So Simo Parpola, he says that the Sumerian language has a similar kind of a construction like this. Taloissanikin ko would mean in English, is it in my houses too?
Well, I will answer that question. Basically, the origin of these theories started by the Hungarian and the Turks. Turks are not from the Middle East, and the arrival of the Turk in the Middle East is well documented. We have document, and no one. And similarly, Hungarian are not from Europe. They came as a wave of Turkic tribe prior to the Turks. Now, because they have no connection to the land, the area, politically, because I've seen the Turkish paper, you laugh at it, because some of the words they use, they try to connect. Because they didn't have any root, they started the theory to give the meaning. That's a human nature. We want to give the meaning of our existence in certain lands. So Turk didn't have that. And they found Sumerian, there were candidates free there. No one is related to Sumerian. Turk and Hungarian jumped to that. So the Finnish theory is not original because it's coming from that trend, political trend. Because I've seen some of the papers of the Finnish and, sorry, not the Finnish, the Hungarian and Turkish paper, especially the Turkish one, you just laugh when you read it. I hope you can read, because that's how the theory started. So this is not a scientific approach. I wish the professor could have started his own theory rather than following that trend, because the original of trend is political, and as we know in Turkey, anything studied in Turkey, I'm sorry to say that, is very difficult to consider scientifically, especially when it comes to history, because Turks are very nationalist, and that nationalism is visible in their approach in studying history and language. I hope I answered your concern. Yep. Bakurdiya Bahazman. Bash.
Yeah. So you have mentioned about in your data show that the similarity between Sumerian language and French and Spain and other languages. So my question is, since Kurds and Persian are ancient people in this area, so what's the clue that Kurds similarly have not learned the language from the Sumerians and picked the words that you have been shown? So because logically, if you say that the same language have been coming to English and Spain, so what's the clue that the same thing hasn't happened to Kurds?
Are you Persian?
No, I'm Kurd.
Okay, all right.
Kurdim.
Okay. Well, when I say these words come from there, please read my book, because in every chapter I try to tell you how it's not just language. The DNA of the cereal came to Europe, came from Kurdistan. The DNA for some of the cereal from the mountain came to Sumerian. From Mesopotamia came to Europe. So we have evidence, and it's not me, as I showed you. The German institution says the Indo-European language is coming from there. So it's not from me, it's from them. But what's missing is Sumerian language. By the way, Persian as well is connected to the Sumerian. But
Old Persian, look, this is very important. Listen to this. Old Persian was very far away from Sumerian. But New Persian is more similar to Sumerian. What does that tell you? Originally, Persian came from different lands. So they were under the influence of the Median people. And this is recorded by the Greek. They say everything Persian is, they are under the influence of the Median. Even the clothes they were wearing was influenced by the Median. So there are evidence. You can see the detail in the book. Sorry, I want to answer more questions. I hope I answered yours.
داستانی سۆمەری ئەنەرمەرکار گەورەی ئاڕاتا کە ئاماژە بەوە دەکەیت وەڵی کە خاکی مارتوو لە ئاسایشدا بوو مەبەستت لە خاکی مارتوو کوێ ئایا مەبەستت خاکی میتانە لە هەمان داستانیشتا جەنابەت ئاماژە بەوەکەی کە خواوەند کە لە هەمان داستانیشتا ئاماژە بەوە کرێت کە خواوەند زمانەکانی گۆڕیوە دیارە هەر خۆش لە ناو کتێبەکەشتا باست ئەوە کرد لەوە کردووە کە لە ئەنجیلیشدا هەمان بابەت بەڵێ منیش بەدادا چۆنم کرد بەڵێ لە پساڵمی 11.7 ئەم بابەتە باس کراوە کە ئەڵێ زمانەکان شێوە و تەنانەت لە کۆمەڵگای فینلەندیشە ئەوەی کە من خوێنمەوە ئەمە خۆی لە خۆی جێی پرسیارە ئەمەش کە گوایە خواوەند بۆچی زمانەکانی تێکەڵ کرد بەڵێ ئەتەوێ وەڵامی پرسیاری یەکەم بیتەوە یا
وەڵاهی با بۆی تۆزە خێرایت لێ بکەی لەبەری کات کەمە
باشە کەواتە شتەکانی کە باز ناکەم بەس تەنها شتێکە کاتێک کە باسی نیزامی گەنجیەکەیت و ئاماژە بەوەکەی کە لە هۆنراوەیەکدا باز لەوە دەکات کە دایکی کووردە ئایا ئەو هۆنراوەیە بەردەست نەبوو دیارە پرسیارەکەی من مەبەستێکم هەیە بۆچی چکە خۆش دەزانی خوێنەر زۆرمان هەیە هەندێکیان بە شیکاریە خوێنێتەوە هەندێکیان مەسەرەن فێرە بێ لە فێربوونەوە ئیترا بە ناوێکی بەڵێ تر شتیکەم هەوێ بەڵام کێشە نیە لەبەرەوەی کاتەکە ئەوە نییە
بەخێر ئەی لە کتێبی پێشووتر وازام دامناوە بەڵام هەر ئاوا گوگڵی بکەی یەکسەر ئەو شعرێتە دەرەوە ئەگەر مادەرێ من سەیدە کورد بوو شتێکی ئاوایە نیزامی گەنجەی بەڕوونی ئەڵێ من دایکم ڕئیسێکی کورد بوو ئەمە بە شعرەکە هەراوە گوگڵی بکەی یەکسەریەتە دەرەوە یعنی شتێکی بە ئینگلیزی بە فارسی زۆرە ناسراوە چونکە پیاوێکی ناسراوە تەنانەت ویکیپیدیا کە من زۆر جار ویکیپیدیا دەستکاریەکەم بەیانی فارس و عەرەب و تورک ئەیگۆڕن بەڵام لێش هەر ئەو شعرە هەیە توانی بیبین لە ویکیپیدیاش هەیە هەر لەژێر ناوی نیزامی گەنجەیە لە ویکیپیدیا بە فارسیەکەی یا بە ئینگلیزیەکەی سێرکەی بەڵام ئەم کابرا بۆ بەشەر لە بینی تورک و فارسە فارزەڵە ئێرانیە لە ناو کتێبەکە شعرەکەم دانەناو بەزەڵم پتەوێت زۆرە ئەو نەشتێکی باوە بۆیە دامنەناوتم لەوانەیە بۆ خەڵک ئاسایی بێ سەبارەت جیابوونەوەی زمانەکان ئەوەی خۆشە 400 ساڵەمەوە پێش ئەولیا چەلەبیەتە کوردستان ئەڵێ زمانی کوردی لەکوێوە دروست بوو سنجار و مەیفارەقین لەوێ هاتە خوارەوە لەوێوە زاراوە کوردەکان جیابووە هەمان چیرۆک سۆماریەکان 5,000 ساڵەوە پێش باشی جیابوونەوەی زمانی خۆیانەکەن ڕێک لە سنجار ڕێک هەمان چیرۆک دوای 5,000 ساڵ ئەو چیرۆکە ماوەتەوە لە ناو خەڵکا کابرایەکیش تۆماریکە کە تورکە جا ئەو چیرۆکە زۆر گرنگە کە خەڵک ببینێ کە چۆن ئەو چیرۆکانەمان بەردەوام این بووە.
I would like to represent my journalism group as an international global association, and this is one of the issues that was brought about because they learned since we advertised this event, and few of my friends would have requested if there are other translation of the book aside from English. As last year, I found the book only in English, and we're happy that we have in Sorani, but few of the other languages like German, Spanish, and Turkey, and of course Kurmanji. I represent those who would like to speak for the group. If you have the intention of coming up with a new publication in other languages.
I absolutely have the intention to translate it, especially to the neighboring nations, the occupiers, mainly the language of Arabic, Turkish, and Persian. I'm currently working on the Arabic, translated myself to Arabic as well, but I need publishers to approach me. I've spoken to a publisher from North Kurdistan. We are trying to translate it to Kurmanji and Turkish. The Ministry of Education approached me from South Kurdistan. They wanted to translate it to Persian. I said you have to translate it from English because the original language of the book is English. So since then they've been quiet. I don't know why. There must be a reason. But I'm hoping. But it's not my job. My job as a historian, I wrote my book, and I'm going on tour. I fight the whole world. I have to find the whole world. I don't affiliate myself with any political party. That makes my work a little bit harder because I'm independent. So I mainly depend on myself and selling the book to fund my project. So that makes it a little bit harder, but there are people around the world, organization. As I said, right now I'm speaking with good people from the United States. We want to have major events in universities around in Germany next month and next year in America. والله لبيت أنا بعد جوابي أو برزمه وتبغى برسال كاري أبيت صور زمان زور بعجاو ما مليانه زمان ماتماتيك نيه كسر دانش زماني ستاندر بونس تبي لنا شيء ما هم رني إما لسرتاش الثانية تو أم زارانو ما هي ڕۆژێکی بینی ڕۆژی ڕۆژان ئەم زارانەوەی بینی چۆن ڕێگیان چەنە دوورێژە بە حقایەت بیانەتووی نوازانین ئێمە دوێنێ ئەم زارانەوەمان چەندین بەڵگە لە پەتووکەکەمان بینی زاراوەی کوردی دێرینە ئێمە ناتوانین یاری بۆ بکەین ئەوە کاری دەوڵەتە کاری بە سەدان و هەزاران خەڵکە کاری تاکە کەس بۆ کاریوە من خۆم لەگەڵی نیم تاکە کەس ئەو کارە بکە زمان بابەتێکی زۆر قوڵە ئەبێ ڕێزی ئەوکەی هەندێ بە برامی قساکە هەندێ بە سۆرانی هەندێ بە کرمانجی هەندێ بە کەلووڕی بێ ئاگامان هەمووی بێ لەبەرەوە زۆر بە ئاگاو هەناو بنێک